What's in the box? Well, it's something scary, I can tell you that. What frightening thing could it be? A snake? A spider? A tax auditor? What are you afraid of? What would you hate to see in the box if we passed it around the room? Many of us in our Western society spend our entire lives avoiding what's in the box. I'm Erik Seversen. I'm an anthropologist, and I spent years learning about an indigenous tribe in the Amazon along the borders of Brazil, Suriname, and French Guyana. During my research and months living with the Wayana tribe in 1995, one of the things that piqued my curiosity was how they handle fear in a way that benefits them instead of holding them back. The Wayana live deep in the jungle. It's forbidden for outsiders to enter this territory without permission from the government. I had permission for purposes of research, but this permission didn't come with instructions on how to get to the Wayana. It took 3 days in a shared dugout canoe to get to the edge of Wayana territory, a community called Mariposula. And the closer I got, the more nervous I became about how I would get into the forest past Mariposula. Would I have to acquire a dugout canoe by myself and just begin paddling upriver? I really had no idea. As French Guyana is a territory of France, in Mariposula, there exist a few French services, including a small number of military police, teachers, and medical professionals. As it turned out, a French doctor would travel upriver into Wayana territory once a month to provide medical attention. To my good fortune, he planned to do this the very next day after my arrival. As the doctor, a Wayana translator, and I headed upriver, my excitement turned to downright fear. My stomach started turning as I wondered, where would I sleep at night? What would I eat? Would the Wayana even accept me? The doctor suggested I stay at a village called Coyote because it was a large Wayana village of about 60 people. Approaching Coyote, my heart began to race. We pulled the canoe up to a clay bank, fastened it along the river, and started walking towards a large communal hut in the center of the village, which was buzzing with activity. We had entered Coyote during a ta'akai, which is a multi-day feast whereby the Wayana invite neighboring villages to share in the consumption of a drink called kashiri. Some were dancing in a rhythmic circle under a covered area. Others were sitting at the edges, and children were running around playing with bows and arrows. My first interaction with the Wayana was a man walking up to me with a gourd full of a whitish milky liquid. With my eyes, I asked the doctor for help. A quick hand gesture indicated that I should drink the whole thing. I gulped down the concoction, which is pulpy with a curious fermented impression. I didn't know it at the time, but the moment I accepted the gourd full of kashiri from that Wayana was the exact moment I had entered a contractual exchange relationship with this man. I also didn't know at the time that kashiri is a mildly alcoholic drink made by women who peel, cut up, and pound a root called manioc. They then chew it up and spit it into large wooden vats where it ferments. I know, this was new to me too. Once there's a large enough amount of kashiri, a village will invite other villages to come and share. The kashiri is a big part of the Wayana exchange relationships that act as a social fabric that helps them to survive. That first day, our Wayana translator asked the chief of the Wayana village if I could stay. Not only did the chief say yes, but he motioned for a nearby Wayana to offer me more kashiri. Things kind of went like that all afternoon and all night long. My fears of having no food or shelter were alleviated, and I realized relationships reduce fear. After living with the Wayana for a time, I gathered that one of the Wayana's largest fears was fear of having no food. As hunters and gatherers with some small-scale agriculture, if a person was unsuccessful hunting on a day, they might not eat. However, because of the very precise web of individual exchange relationships, this fear is mitigated by knowing that if another person in the village had a successful hunt, the food would be shared. For the Wayana, the fear of having no food is not an individual burden. Rather, this fear is greatly reduced by a person's exchange relationships within the community. These exchanges aren't metaphors of the Wayana social fabric. They are the social fabric. By entering unspoken contracts of exchange, the Wayana negotiate a position in the social order. And the social order exists because of these unspoken contracts of exchange. The exchange relationships allow individual Wayana to be relieved of the tireless anxiety of wondering if there would be a next meal. Again, the relationships reduce fear. But what if somebody couldn't reciprocate and thus actively be in an exchange relationship? From my observation, there were individual chains of exchange relationships that solved things for the very young, ill, and elderly. I'll give you an example. One of the Wayana men named Oniwa had caught a large fish, and he shared this meal of fish and cassava cakes, which I ate around a fire along with his wife, wife's parents, and his young child. The next afternoon, Oniwa said that he was hungry. He asked if I was successful hunting that day, and I said that I was not. After learning that I had given a few shotgun shells to another Wayana, one of the few who owned a shotgun, Oniwa responded, "Great, we will eat today." Without hesitation, Oniwa used the pronoun "we will eat today" rather than "you will eat today." Oniwa knew that because I had given shotgun shells to the hunter, if the hunter was successful, which Oniwa assumed he would be, the hunter would give some meat to me, I would give some to him, and he would share with his wife, wife's parents, and young child. And this is exactly what happened when the successful hunter returned to the village and gave me the hind leg of a peccary, kind of like a wild boar. Day after day, I witnessed the precision of the exchanges that made the self-centered fear of having no food a community-centered affair that empowered everyone. The relationships reduced fear. Since there was no electricity in Coyote, if one person had successfully hunted a large animal, there wasn't a convenient way for him to store the meat and to have enough for himself to eat for the next week. Rather, the better option was to share it all on that first day, knowing that meat would be reciprocated on a non-successful day of hunting in the future. That's part of the logic. But what if we, in our modern culture, full of the conveniences of refrigerators and packaged food, could learn something from the Wayana about community? What if we put less emphasis on ourselves as individuals and mitigated our fears by providing support to others, as well as accepting help from others? Could we do this? With all of the forces in our lives trying to keep us apart, cubicles, laptop computers, cell phones, and deadbolt locks on our closed doors, could we really benefit by entering more supportive exchange relationships with each other? But what if somebody couldn't exchange, couldn't reciprocate? Is that person left out of the exchange relationship paradigm? I can confidently tell you no, because for a short time during my stay with the Wayana, I was that person. After traveling further up the Lawa River, much deeper into the Amazon, to an extremely small Wayana village, I was stung by a scorpion while hunting, and I became stuck in a hammock for 3 days. Once the effect of the scorpion's venom began to take control, my fear became unbearable. During that time, the uncertainty of what would happen to me physically, as well as how I would survive, filled me. Spoiler alert, I lived. But once I became useless as a provider, was I excluded from getting food since there was nothing I could give back? No, there was an extreme amount of compassion for me. All I could do was lay in my hammock, but a Wayana shaman rarely left my side as he sat on a stool next to me chanting for hours on end. And what about food? When one of the Wayana hunters came back to the village with a peccary, not only did they give me some meat, but they gave me bits of the most prized fatty sections. While I was only in that tiny village for a short time, leaving was more emotional than any of the other villages. As I looked into the eyes of the shaman who cared most for me, all I could do was hold his hands in mine and say "Ipak Banai," or thank you in Wayana. But no words in any language could express the intimacy I felt with this man. His compassion created a connection beyond that of any exchange system, and the relationship reduced fear. Ah, fear. There's that word again. Shall we see what's in the box? Shall we reveal the frightening thing within? I hope it's not a scorpion. Shall we pass it around the room? It's a mirror. It's yourself all alone. So many of us try to avoid being alone with ourselves, alone with our thoughts. We try to escape. To be fair, there are some who have no problem with themselves. But many of us avoid truly looking inward beyond the surface level. We keep occupied with work or activities or drugs, alcohol, or other addictions, endless scrolling on social media. What are we afraid of? We fear physical harm, loss, embarrassment, failure, and success. But what if every time we looked at ourselves in the mirror, we knew we belonged to a community of people who were with us? What if we picture the people we love standing in the mirror behind us? And there might be some who don't find love and support from family or friends. If you don't have a community, how about you build one? Where can you find support? You can use people who are physically far away. You can use mentors, people you look up to, your role models. Who would it be for you? Who would you choose to be in the mirror with you? Parents, spouse, siblings, children? What about friends, teachers, mentors? What if you pictured all of these people around you every time you felt fear? Could you draw strength from this? The answer is yes, you could. Picture the people you want to support you right now. Lock in their image standing in the mirror behind you and allow the positive feelings to help you next time you feel fear. Relationships reduce fear. Just like the Wayana fear of hunger is mitigated by community, so too can your fear of job loss, location change, or even loss of a relationship be mitigated by embracing those around you and understanding that all fear is self-centered, and this emotion has little control over you when you are part of a supporting team. Imagine if you could put all of your energy and enthusiasm and momentum into your projects if you were not held back by your fears. How much could your fearless contribution make to the world? Now, let's all go out and make a positive difference in the world together. Thank you.